Alright, so now we're going to move on to actually start generating content for our web page. First off, I have just a basic skeleton here for a website with no content. If you want to create this using Emmet, which I'll demonstrate later, it's actually really easy. I'm just going to delete this. So you just do Shift, exclamation point, tab, and that'll build the basic structure of the web page for you. So let's look at this before we move on. So first off, this declares that it is an HTML file. So that's the document type. This is the head information. So everything embedded in there. So we have a meta tag that tells the browser what the character set is. So this is UTF-8, which is very common character set. Common in English language and whatnot. So that's generally a good idea. You should define your character set. And then this is the title of the web page. This is what will show up in the browser tab. So I'm going to launch a preview of this now. And there's really nothing in the page yet, but we do have document up there. So if we would change this, so it's going to be Freddie and Perry. So note that changed this up here in the tab. There's some other types of meta tags that are commonly added. So I'm going to dump in a few that I've already made into here. Okay, so I have this author tag that says who created it. And then I have this description tag, meta tag that tells us just a description of. So this is just an example HTML doc. So those are some examples. You could also maybe make a tag for like update date or date that it was first created, or like a copyright or something. Okay, what else to discuss before we actually start adding content? So also in the HTML main tag here, we have language equals EN, so it's telling you that the page is in English. Alright, so that's basically the raw structure of the page. So now we'd like to move on and start generating some actual content for the page. Alright, so again, nothing in the header will print on the page. It's just metadata, additional information. Note that it has a closing tag, so the head opens here, closes here, the HTML document opens there, closes there. Pretty much everything will be embedded in between the opening HTML and the closing HTML tag. And then we have the opening and closing body tag, and that's where all the information for the web page will go. Okay, so let's start building some content. So I'm going to start off with we're going to start with an H1. So that's a header 1, so like a big heading. All right, there we go. So we have a header up here now. Note that it's just, there's no styling applied. It's just using whatever the default style is. That's because we haven't generated any CSS yet, which we'll get into. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have some material already, so I'm just going to dump some of this in, and then we'll talk about what it does. Alright, so dump in here a couple more lines. Okay, so I have a main header. I have a subheading at H2, again, open and closing tags. I have an image, but as we see here, the image isn't actually drawing correctly. So first off, if we wanted to have an alt text, we could do alt is equal to, we'll see, opening image. So now it prints that alt text since it didn't find the file. Now the reason it didn't find the file was because it doesn't actually exist. So let's go in and look at the directory. So I've dumped the files into the folder, and I put them specifically in this images folder. So these are a couple different images that we're going to work with. They're in JPEG or PNG format. So note this is IMGS, so that's why it's not finding it. So if we change this to plural there, then it adds the picture in. I also put in this width argument, which specifies the width of the image on the page, which is 400 pixels. This is actually a really large image. I should have resized it beforehand. So for example, if we remove this, it'll print at its native size, which is actually pretty big. So again, what you probably do, add that back in. So what you should do is actually decrease the size a bit, because that'll help with like loading speeds and whatnot. And so now I have two headings and an image and then an opening paragraph. All right, so let's add a few other types of elements. So what I'm going to do is just dump some more material in here. First off, we'll make the skeleton. So I'm going to create another H2 heading, and we'll put something in there in a minute. And then I'm going to have another image, and then a paragraph, and then we're going to do an unordered list. And we're going to put in there a series of list elements. And I'm just going to copy this. All right. Also, I guess I wanted to put this after the HR, which was the horizontal line. So I just added that back in. Okay, so I already have the content here, so I'm just going to paste it in. So in this H2 tag, we're going to put this text about Freddy. So we're going to have a subset there for Freddy. And then next I have a picture of Freddy that I want to dump in. So we're going to dump this into the image tag here. Don't need this. And we need to change this to a plural to match the folder name. So there's a picture of Freddy. And then we're going to add in another paragraph here, or paragraph content. All right, so there we have some text. Note I also included a B tag or a bold tag there to bold a word. Actually, yes, looks like I had a second paragraph, so I add that in. There's the second paragraph. And we already have our skeleton for our list, but we don't have the actual items in the list, so I'm going to dump those in real quick. And that should start to build out the list. So these are just some facts about Freddy. So I'm just doing this so you don't have to watch me type. Okay, so there's a little section on Freddy with a header, an image, a paragraph with a bold inside of it, and then we have an unordered list with 4 list elements. All right, and then I'm just going to dump in this last section, which is the content on Perry. So it's really nothing new there. Just going to tap that back to match. Okay, so this is another section with Perry. Again, our image link is broke because the folder has a different name, so I'm just going to add that in and fix it. So again, we basically have an H2 header, an image, then we have paragraph, another paragraph, and then the unordered list. And then lastly here, I want to add in a table. So I'm going to throw in this basic table structure. So that's going to go here. Okay, so I've created this table. So let's see if we understand how that works. So I created a table. I set the max width using the inline CSS there to 100%, so it'll go clear across the page. I have a first row, which is basically the column names. They're defined inside of these TH tags, and then I use these. So yeah, the TH tag, which is the table header, and then TDs, which is table data. So we basically define each of the 3 elements in each of the columns in the table separately. And then lastly, we have a link. So I'm going to add in a link here after the close of the table. Oops. Oh, no, that works. So I have a paragraph tag. And within that paragraph tag, I have an A tag for a link. And this word here is going to now become a link. And I have the target set to blank, which means that it's going to open that link in a new tab. So let's see if that worked. Yeah, so it links to one of our local animal rescue organizations. Okay, so that's some basic web content. So we have headers, different scales, images, paragraphs, bolds, unordered lists, tables, links. One last thing before we end it. I have a plugin installed that helps with the tabulation. I'm not always great at that. So with this plugin, if I click Control-Alt-I, it'll fix the indents so that they're correct. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and now we have a basic web layout that we can continue to add to.